record.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go over here to the broadcast. Let's go live.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to episode 36.
Whoa.
36 consecutive weeks, minus 1 week that we skipped because actually 2 weeks now, because we both had something going on and we just weren't up to not just par of doing it, but I don't think people really could understand what we were going to be saying if that.
You know, there's what we come here energetically live to bring you vibrancy and energy. And you know, sometimes when a bug hits you, you don't feel so vibrant. It's okay. We all have days, as long as we don't have we move our attention away from that and get back into what energizes us and moves us forward. So
here's what I do know: we have just one life. We have one chance to do it, and we have to choose to start living it. Too many people are not living the quality of life that they know they should be living. And that's really why we show up here every week, at least. So we can bring some value and share some greatness in what's happening in our world, and hopefully can matriculate into what others are doing. So today's going to be a really fun concept, a really fun topic to talk about. And it's something that we've put a lot of attention to in our TM90 and in our transformation program and in our method. And I know you're doing the same with your coaching clients as well, Gail. And it's this concept of content versus context, right? And so people are going to be like, well, what's the difference? And I want to get into that. At least we can share that and what the thought is and how content, the information we're taking in, is useless. Like there's very little value when you don't have proper context. I want you to think about this. And here's the analogy I'd like to use, because so many people have been here, at least because we attract a lot of entrepreneurs, business people, realtors, people that just are high performers. Like they're just living at a certain elevation of quality of life and they just want more. And why is it we can read all the books? We can look at, let's say, if you want to earn more income, you can read all the books on how to become financially free and all the things. And one that I was just talking about, there's a lot of books that we can choose from, but who's ever read this book?
Yep.
Think and Grow Rich. Why is it that something like 100 million people have read this book and the majority of them have not become financially wealthy or independent? It's because the content, whatever's in these pages, and I've read this book several times and I'm still learning. I'm still on my way to find the secrets and the nuggets and all the discoveries, but all the content that's in here is going to be deemed useless if it doesn't match our subconscious thinking, or what we call as the context. So think about that for a second. Why is it that we can read? Why is it somebody can read all the nutrition books? Like this one I can really relate to. Like you can read all the books on keto and intermittent fasting and all these things. And yeah, in a short duration of time or in the interim, you start getting progress. But why is it that quickly you start falling back into old habits? It's because the context is only going to be supported by your context, or i.e. your identity. So really sit on that for a second. And Gail, I know that you've had quite an experience just with sort of observing where your context is versus the content. And I'll do some illustrations, but what's your takeaway on that? Just that one simple point.
Well, it's true. We've got books galore. We're always being told, well, read this, watch this, go to YouTube. Information is everywhere. And your illustration of why aren't 100 million people financially independent, because they're reading Think and Grow Rich. It's because they're not at a place in their box, in their selves, in their thinking, in their minds to receive. Content is useless without the proper context. So as we grow, and like you said, we're all growing. We're all growing. Let's talk about the diet thing for a while first, just a second, because in my adult life, I've gone the yo-yo thing. I've done the yo-yo thing up and down, and I'd lose weight, I'd gain it back. And in the last 4 years, I've changed my identity. I changed my behaviors, who I am, and that supports. So I've created this new box, this new context of who I am, and that my behaviors support who I am. So now when I read more about nutrition, I have a better context to put it in because of how I've grown through the time.
Yeah, let me deliver it in like probably the simplest of ways. And like I said, I do want to give some illustration because I know like showing can oftentimes just be even more efficient than telling. Your current thinking right now. So how you think subconsciously, what you believe you're worth, what you believe you deserve in your life is the current thinking that's going to keep you trapped in your life. So it doesn't matter how much positive vibes we put out there, how much positive thinking, the affirmations, if it's not consistent with what our identity is, we remain ultimately where we're at. So let me go through this. Let me break it down here. I want to make sure you can see this, Gail. I got my little easel here.
I love it.
Ah, thank you. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's great.
Can you see that? Okay. Any glare on there? No, it looks great, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Okay. So I want you to think about the two words content and context. And it's very specific. So content, just like I said, content is going to be the books you read, the courses you go learn from, the YouTube videos you're obtaining information from. It's all the information. Are you sure you can see that?
Well, your marker is a little faint, but I can see the board really well.
Okay. Let's try black.
There, that's better.
Okay. Content is going to be the information, just info. Then the context. Now notice the difference. Content and context are separated by one letter, N and X. So I consider the context, Gail, I believe you just said it, it's the box. It's the box that we hold the information in that we are obtaining. So I'll just put a box up here on the side. But really, context is the subconscious frame of thinking. I'll say that again. It's the subconscious frame in which we think. I'm not going to write that down. That'd be too long at this point to write down, but subconscious frame of thinking. So I want you to think of it as, let's just use the book analogy again. Let's say you have a stack of books and you pull them off your shelf and you take in the content, but contingent on the size of your box and your frame of thinking is to the degree that you're going to be able to absorb and assimilate that information. Because you can listen to this right now, and I hear it often. It's like, no matter what I tell you, no matter what I show you, no matter what you tell them or you show them, Gail, or they're listening to another coach or listening to another professor or an instructor, they're always going to say, and we're always going to think, and we're going to hear, like, that's so nice. Like, that makes complete sense. I want that. But subconsciously, the context is, whoa, 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 no, I can't have that. That's not part of my subconscious paradigm. That's not what I believe to be true about myself. And it's not our fault either. We've learned these things through childhood. We've learned these things for the past years, how we've allowed people to treat us, because we do teach people how to treat us.
Mhm.
And when we do that for so long, it's repetition. Here's what's interesting too. Your brain cannot force new thinking. Like, you can't force your brain to create new thoughts. It all comes from repetition. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. Think about when you were learning to read.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to just think your way into like, oh, I'm going to learn how to say the word cat and dog and, box. I'm going to like, no, it just took repetition, 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 because you were starting with blank context. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start thinking you know what you know, it doesn't matter what you hear. It's only going to be in alignment and consistency and congruency with what your context tells you to be true. Why do you think that there's such a divide and such polarization in politics right now? Because the left knows they're right and the right knows they're right. They're not even willing to listen to opinions. It's just, no, this is the way it is. I don't care. And then what do? They look on their social media feed. They scroll through their TikTok, they scroll through their Instagram, and everything that they're going to receive through content typically is going to support their context. Because what happens when you get content on there, if you're a Democrat, for example, and you get something that's going to be Republican that comes across your feed, what do you say? Oh, that's bullshit. It filters it right out. It just filters it out. It's not even up for negotiation. It's not even up for a conversation. You go right through it. So that's why you only are going to match what your context tells you. And that's your subconscious frame of thinking. And that's why, I'm all for simplicity. I want to make sure this is like really simple. So context is going to be what you think. Context is what you think.
Context or content?
Content, excuse me, I put it right under the content. If I said context, I didn't mean, I meant content. Right here on the left-hand side. Context is how you think. So it's not uncommon that we go through the logical level. We go through some NLP models. We go through the model of performance, like the be, do, have versus the have, do, be. And people go through the process and like, I don't understand. Because it's not in alignment to what their context is yet. They haven't been through it enough times repetitiously. You're forcing the information. You're forcing a way of thinking. You're forcing development. You can't force it. It just comes through repetition and just peeling back the layers. So when I say, or when we say that content is useless without proper context, because we work backwards. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. There's enough proof. There's enough evidence for us to say that it's not more information that you need. Because that's what everybody's going to tell you. All the experts out there, all the people are suggesting and giving they're encouraging, they're saying, hey, take more course, take this course, take that course, go watch that YouTube video. Oh, this was so great. Go listen to this person do their TED Talk. That's more information. How much attention are you putting to the context in which you have these subconscious thoughts or your identity, your ways of being? It always comes back to the ways of being. It always comes back to what are the characteristics that you hold to be true about yourself, or what would you like yourself to be somebody different through characteristic that is going to make the ultimate impact. And then you attract more of that content.
Mm-hmm.
You attract more of what is going to support that context in which you want to be. So change, people say, is hard. I'm stuck. I'm frustrated. It's because you're trying. When I was talking about this, I used the garden hose analogy. So imagine a garden hose, because it's becoming a little bit nicer outside and it's becoming a little bit warmer. So
I don't know where you are. It's nice here.
Yeah, it's nice out in AZ, but here in Chicagoland area, right now it's still 20 degrees. I'm not bringing out the water hose yet, but soon enough, I'll be bringing out the water hose. So just imagine your water hose sitting outside by your spout, by your spigot, by your, plants, whatever. And so what do? Like, we feel stuck. We feel frustrated. We feel like we're trapped because we're kinking the water hose.
It reminds me, Steve, because think about the times you kink the water hose. Like, you're watering the flowers. It's like, I need it to stop. I need it to stop. So you kink the hose so that you only let that, so you can move your attention to somewhere else, or you want to build up so you can let it go and spray the person that's coming around the corner.
Yeah. My kids do that all the time.
But we kink the hose for a purpose. It's to stop the flow of energy that's coming through that hose, because you used a word, filter.
Mhm.
You know, we filter out what we don't want. We don't want more water. We kink the hose and turn it off until we let a little bit more in. And so go ahead with your analogy. I just like that, that picture came into my mind. There's a reason why we kink the hose.
Okay, so you said filter. We filter things in. We filter things out. We filter things in. Think about that. Your thoughts are like magnets. You're going to attract what you're thinking about. And you're going to filter in more of what your RAS, your reticular activating system, is going to allow in. So if you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire, because it's going to happen, and you're like, oh my God, like this sucks. I can't believe I had a flat tire. And just before this, I spilled coffee on my shirt. I'm going into work. I'm like a slob. What else could happen to me today? Guess what's going to happen? More shit's going to pile onto you today. And you're going to have more shit-tastic moments, I like to say. And it's because you've attracted that. You're filtering it in. Even when all the great things that are happening, the sunset, you miss the sunset because you're not focused on that. That's not where your attention is. You're missing a nice compliment that you received from somebody because you're not focused on that. You're focused on what else could go wrong today. You're focusing on your current context. So the water hose analogy is simply just you have a kink in your hose and you have very little water coming through. That's the frustration. That's when we feel like the obstacle. We feel we're struggling. We feel trapped. We have two options. The first option is like, all right, well, I'm not getting much water in here, so I'm going to go take in more information. I'm going to turn that water and get more water through the main pipeline. Turn it up higher. I'm going to force water through there. That's what I'm going to do. But then thus comes more frustration, more anxiety, more stress, because we're not producing the environment, the result that we desire by doing more things, producing more behaviors. Or we can say, all right, well, let's work from a core level. Let's work from a foundational level. And let's start asking ourselves better quality questions, saying like, well, all right, who do I need to be right now? Do I need to be somebody that's going to be more committed or just remain uncommitted to whatever it is I'm doing? Do I need to be personally integral? Do I need to start doing the things I actually say I'm going to do? Or just continue breaking my promises to myself, but just make more promises and break more of them to myself? That's again, cranking up that hose. Just unkink it. Work from context. Work from reprogramming your subconscious mind. That's what we teach. That's what we develop. But see, most people are like, that doesn't work. That's mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus. Well, it is what you say it is, because that is how you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you change how you think that you start absorbing more of what you're taking in that actually matters.
That takes me right back to, I don't need to exercise. All I need to do to get healthy is eat nutritiously. And then that was my mindset. That was my context. I didn't move my body until I did. And you step in and you take one step forward and you have an awareness. That wasn't so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could do that again. And you do it again and again. And you right now, I just watched a video about the zero effect that you talk about.
Yeah.
And so the more we do something, the habits that we create, the subconscious habits that we create over time, fast forward 2 years, I can't imagine not moving. See, I'm a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I have a different context of where I am today versus where I was 2 years ago. And so when you said people don't believe you can reprogram yourself, you can if you want to. You have to have a desire to do something or to be somebody different, to know what to do in order to have a different outcome.
I had a conversation with our friend Josh Gettig, I think it was the other day, and he's always throwing me ideas. He goes, you know what, Steve, you need to create like this program on this and this course on nutrition and things like that, because, you know, people want results quick. And I said, I get that. I spent the last 25 years on this planet giving recommendations and suggestions and behaviors, and here's what you need to do. Then it finally came to me, probably before the pandemic for sure, that I no longer want to be one that's going to deliver information. Like you can find all this everywhere. You can find content everywhere. I'll still bring it to you though, because it's still relevant. It's still valuable to your growth. But my attention is going to be, how do we change your context? How do we expand your identity? How do we raise the internal thermostat, your self-image, what you believe to be true about yourself, the stories you tell yourself that aren't serving you, that may have served you at one time, but I'll tell you what, they're not serving you now, but you believe that story can't be shaken. Of course it can't. So when we work from the context, we work from the subconscious frame of thinking, we can change and alter the course of your life. Essentially one behavior, one habit, one strategy at a time. And Gail, you're providing this also, obviously, in your vibrancy for women. And so you come from the same place. Like you're not showing up saying, well, here's how to be the most vibrant version of yourself.
Right.
You're allowing other amazing humans to discover that and do introspective work to what's going to light them up, what's going to guide them and bring fulfillment into their life. That's working from context.
Right.
So
I had an amazing conversation last week with 11 women, and for the primary reason of, what does vibrancy mean to you? And you know what? There was a few that had the same context, but many of them were different. You know, vibrancy is different for everybody. So if I'm going to guide women into living their most vibrant life, you hear the jets.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, the F-16s just flew over. We get a flyby every day. But the vibrancy, I can't guide someone to be vibrant, that my idea of what vibrancy is, because that's just more information. They're going to filter out Gail's vibrancy and look for what's vibrant in their own life. And that's what I'm excited to do, is help women discover what vibrancy means to them. And then, remember that time when you felt it. Let's get it back. We have one life. We have one life to live. Mm-hmm. And we choose every day the attitude and mindfulness of how we're going to live each and every day. So I want more vibrant days than I want tough days. And we all have tough days. That's why that's why we're bringing each other together, to get through the tough times, to just remember what that vibrancy looks like for us. And, more often than not, live in that most vibrant, purposeful life that we have.
For anyone that's watching this, Gail, and they didn't have the opportunity to jump on Friday's call that you had with those 11 amazing women you had mentioned, is there a way for them to catch that replay?
Sure, just message me.
Okay.
Men, you're not allowed. I won't send.
Well, that eliminates 49% of your audience population.
Yeah. So yes, ladies, if you're listening and you're like curious about that, I'm launching on 321. Not too many days from now. What is it? 11 days from now. And we're going to have conversations. So if you're curious about what it is that we're going to be talking about, please just send me a private message on social media and ask for the replay of that. It's about an hour long, and I think you'll either be pulled into it because it's matching the context you have in your own life, or you'll be like, no, that's just more information, and move on. So it's not for everybody, but it'll draw in the certain ones that are ready to make that next step into vibrancy.
So that leads me to a takeaway from what we can really sort of eject from this conversation. It really comes down to, doesn't matter, what we're telling you. It doesn't matter what we're showing you. It doesn't matter if you're in a 90-day program of transformational growth and expansion, or if you're in a 90-day program of living your most vibrant quality of life. If it's not consistent with your frame or your context, then it's not going to stick. And how do I know that? Because ask yourself, how many classes have you taken? How many courses have you done? How many YouTube videos have you watched? And you always resort back to the default setting of your old context. Because if it was that more information can produce greater results, then guess what? You'd have greater results.
Mhm.
So that's the takeaway, is observe your perspective. Observe how you interpret your expansion, your evolution, and your growth. And if you're one for being open-minded, then you'd be a great fit for our programs. If you're shut down to it and say, nope, I don't believe that, it's just, I need more information, then you're just not the right person at the right time. That's okay too. But we're showing up to truthfully and with trust, find this, it lands on you somewhere that's going to make an impact. So I trust that the concept of content versus context, the concept of content and context, use this as your training wheels. These are like your training wheels. And the more you go through it, the more you experience it, those training wheels just sort of come off and you start living this authentic, genuine way of life. And you're doing it from the inside out versus the outside in, because that's the way you've been living. I know that. I know you've been operating from the outside in because you have to have something. I have to have the motivation. I have to have the money. I have to have the gym. I have to have something in order for me to go do something that I know I need to do so that I can be happy. I could be successful. I could be joyful. That's the way you operate. It's okay because, again, unconscious incompetence is going to tell you that's a stage of competency. The first stage is going to be like, well, you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
Until you know it, and then you can start applying it. I'm open for any conversations as well. So if anyone wants to dive deeper in that, because I know this is like top of the surface stuff, I'll be happy to have that conversation.
Awesome. Steve, thanks for another great conversation. To lead
It is my honor and my pleasure.
So with that, if you're ready to take on today,
Say let's go and make it a day worth repeating.
let's go.